Hello 103 CAD students, and thank you for allowing me to be absent today to do the doctor's appointment. So I wanted to give you some video lecture in substitute of me not being here. So looking at chapter 2, because I believe most of you are into chapter 1 and that's been introduced and you're moving along in that. So I want to look at chapter 2 and do a little demonstration for it. We are looking at, in this particular chapter, we're looking at basic object construction. And in here, we'll be looking at the world coordinate system again, the startup dialog box, how we're using it, excuse me, the grid and snap intervals, which we've discussed, talked about a little bit already, looking at the toolbars and how to make those display, set up and use object snaps, edit using trim, and using polygon command, and using the tangent radius circle command, and then creating tangent lines. So at the beginning, we're looking at doing the main setup of starting an AutoCAD drawing. So you'll go through and get your AutoCAD started. You'll see your startup dialog, that little snapshot of it shown there. Okay. Then we begin by looking at the dynamic input feature. Okay, and we go down here and we switch that on. Okay, so let's do that. I've already started up an AutoCAD drawing, and I'm using a generic startup here. So down here in your toggles, you should see a button for dynamic input. It's got a plus sign, which is your cursor actually, and a little box. So we'll click on that and turn it on. Now immediately nothing really happens, but if you start the line command, then you'll see a little dialog box that's attached to your cursor. Okay, we call that the dynamic input box. And I'm going to pause for just a moment. So you'll find the use of the dynamic input pretty handy. The book will take you through several steps, so follow those. Essentially, I'll just show you in using it. Don't really have anything else turned on. We'll turn off object snaps. I'll turn off annotation. And hardware acceleration is on. That's okay. And of course my grid is on. So I'm going to pick a line, start point, and we'll go out here and we can see the first little highlighted box is asking for a length. So you could accept that length that you're showing, or you can enter a length. Okay, so we'll just put on there, that looks pretty large, but we'll put 15 and enter. Okay, and then we want to go up at a particular angle, okay, and distance. So we're looking at 10. Let's say we'll make it 10, and then instead of hitting enter, I'm going to press the tab key, and that pushes it over to the degree setting. Since I'm not using an @ sign, and I just press tab, my dynamic input then asks for a degree. So I might type in 35. Okay, then press enter, or you can press tab again and reset your distance if you want. And then press tab again and reset your degrees. When you're finished setting it, you just press enter. Okay, and then you can just continue doing that for all your entries using dynamic input and your direct distance entry, I call it. Okay, You can turn on ortho down here and of course make it go 90 degrees, 180, 270, back to 0, okay, and do a perfectly vertical or horizontal line at a particular distance. So dynamic input is very helpful. At times it can block your view of other geometry. Once you start getting a lot of geometry on your screen, you may have to momentarily turn it off. And you can just go down here and click it. And I think it's F12. Yeah, F12 will turn it off momentarily, or turn it back on, and then you move your cursor a little bit and the distance shows up. Okay. Now let's look at the book, and we're seeing that the rocker arm design is what you're going to create. And when we look at this thing, we see we've got a bunch of dimensions. I'm going to zoom up on that if I can. Okay. So we got a whole bunch of dimensions. See if I can get this to focus even better. It's pretty good. Several dimensions that we're looking at. When we're creating a design like this that's mainly working off of a center point, a lot of times we'll start our project at 0, 0 and start right here. Then where all of our measurements, a lot of them will be just absolute coordinate entries. Okay? So we've got a square to place and a circle down here. Then we're going to use the specialized circle to create a tangent radius. Okay, so tangent in two places and then provide a radius for the circle. We'll also use the tangent command, snap that is, to attach a line that's tangent to this arc and that arc. And we'll use a lot of trimming. Right. So we begin by setting up the startup option. The startup system variable controls that. So let's go to AutoCAD, and I'll go ahead and delete this, erase it. And your command line down here at the bottom, yours might be like this. You can grab the little gray dots, left click on it, grab it, and deposit it down here. Push down a little bit and it will dock. Okay, and then you can type a command, and or you can just start typing a command and AutoCAD will automatically go to the command line entry. So we'll type startup and enter. Right? And right now it's set to a 3. So let's look back at the book, and we see in there that what they're going to have us do is set it to 1. And when we do that, we'll get this little dialog box that will prompt us for several ways that we can start up. Okay? So let's see what happens here. We're going to exit AutoCAD and close it and then start it back up. Okay. So it's a system variable, startup is, that a setting that we make that becomes permanent. And trying to enter a 1. Okay. Apparently my num lock has been turned off for some reason. My number pad. Okay. So now let's see. It's over there. Not here. Okay. Oh, I have dynamic input on. So I'm going to turn that off. Okay, let me pause for a moment and see what I can fix on this thing. Okay, tried to find out why my number pad's not working on my laptop, but that was not successful. So anyway, we'll set our startup value to 1. Startup is a system variable, as I said, that works and is permanent. It works all the time behind the scenes, these startup or these different variables, system variables. So, whoops, now an automatic save has occurred. When you see this, that may mean that your current command got squashed. So I'm just going to make sure that startup changed to 1. Yes, it did. Okay, now we just close AutoCAD, and you don't have to save your changes, and we start it back up, and let's see what the results are. Yep, before AutoCAD completely comes up, it offers you 4 options for starting a drawing. So we can open an existing file, we can start a new one from scratch, okay, use an imperial or metric setup, so keep this in mind. Sometimes you're prompted, but when you're doing your exercises you are not, so you got to decide early on. And then you can use a template, and you can also start up doing a wizard, and we'll practice each one of these, of course. So we look back at our book, and we see that they want us to start up, open a drawing from scratch, and we want to be metric. Then we're going to set our drawing units. Okay, so metric. Okay. Let AutoCAD do its thing. Has to, of course, load everything, get ready. And that'll be a little bit longer for you the first time. But since I've already been there once in this current computer session, it's pretty good, pretty fast. Okay, now I'm going to adjust my command line down here, so I've got 3 lines of command showing. Highly recommended, so you can see the results of your commands and to kind of quickly backtrack if necessary to see where things are and what you have done. Alright, then we go to drawing unit setup, and we want to set this particular drawing. He was recommending that we set it to no digits after the decimal point. Okay, I'm going to recommend that you have at least 1 decimal point. Then the grid and snap are going to be set to 10 for X and Y, and I'm going to leave that set as the author recommends. Okay, but on the units, I have a real problem with not having some decimal point. Now, for display purposes or for dimensioning purposes, sometimes that's the desired effect. Your decimal degrees always set to 1 decimal place, and just in special situations where you will not have a decimal place for your length measurements. Of course, your insertion scale is millimeters. Click OK, and you won't see any change. You know, you can't really tell. We need to turn on our coordinate display here. So go to the right hand bottom and left click on customization and turn on coordinates. Okay, and now you can see your coordinates displayed wherever your cursor is placed. Okay, now we move on, and we're going to set up our drawing area. Oops, grid and snap should be set to 10. He's recommending. So Remember, you can set that anytime you want. So it's a grid snap, and we'll go to snap settings, and we already have our grid at 10. And they want our snap set at 10 as well. Look back at the page. Snap and grid tab. Grid spacing to 10. Switch on the dotted grid. Okay, so we want dotted. And we switch on the grid and snap options. Okay, so 10 setting for both. Alright. So adaptive grid is on, and it's dots is what it's going to be here. So we'll turn our grid on. Snap is on. Now, display grid beyond limits. Remember, I recommend turning that off so you can see where your limits area is, and occasionally you might want to turn it back on. And I've got it set to adaptive grid, so it will show the grid no matter how far in or out you zoom. Alright, so press down your wheel on your mouse and you can pan, then roll your wheel out, of course, and you can zoom. So here is a display of the area for our limits, our drawing area, and in our grid. So if I zoom in on the center, put my cursor in the middle and roll my wheel in, I can see my grid all the way. You know, I can really zoom in very, very close. Okay. Alright. Next, we're going to set our drawing area. Now, drawing area, remember, is an area that would contain your total drawing object, okay? The items that you're getting ready to draw. And he's recommending on this one the lower left to be set to -200 to a -150, because we're going to draw this thing on its center will be 0, 0. Okay, so to go to limits, I recommend just type in the command limits. Right, and then -200 on the X and -150 on the Y. Oh, my number pad's not working. So -200, comma, -150. Enter. Okay, and then the upper right, he's recommending that we go +200, +150 for our XY. Okay, so if you press enter, it comes to the upper right corner. So 200, comma, 150, and enter. Alright, then we pan that around and we see our cursor is at 0, 0, our icon, our user coordinate system icon, and we've created a grid area, a drawing area that's basically 400 by 300, because it's -200 this way, -150 this way, and +200, 150, X and Y. Alright. Then he goes into a discussion about referencing the world coordinate system. And what you want to remember here is that we're working in what we call global space or world space, or it's also called model space in AutoCAD. So it has three names. They all refer to the world coordinate system, which is not movable, not changeable, and so it's a fixed coordinate system, X, Y, and Z. We can create a user coordinate system. Okay. Then you begin the process of creating circles, and I'm going to create this partially, and we're going to create these circles using different input methods as far as their origin. Okay, so let's begin with the 50 radius center. Okay, so we want to select the origin of the coordinate system, which would be 0, 0. Okay, right there. So let's do that. Let's go circle, and it's asking for the center, and of course we have snap turned on, so we can just move our cursor until our dynamic display shows a 0, 0, and left click on it. Then we need to add a 50 radius. So I highly recommend just typing 50 and enter. Next, you want to create these other two circles. Okay, so we'll hit the space bar to start the circle up, and then we're going to put it at the coordinates absolute 70, 40. Okay, so from here up. So circle, I'll hit the space bar to start it over, and then the coordinates would be 70, 40. Enter. And the radius is 25. Okay, so 25, 25, enter. Alright. Then next, we want to also use 25, but it's at -50, -60. So let's do that. So space bar. Enter the center point for the circle, right? And that'll be -50, -60. -50, -60. Enter. And the same radius. You see down here, it's prompting you in the defaults, the little less than and greater than symbol area. That's the default. That's what's going to be entered if you hit the enter key. And so that places those. Alright, I'm going to move forward so I have time to process the movie before or the video before I leave. So we set our object snap toolbar, and we make some settings there, and then we're going to draw a line command. Okay, and then you're going to use tangent for that, so we got to turn on our toolbar. Okay, so the object snap toolbar is under tools, toolbars, and then we select AutoCAD, and then we pick object snaps. Okay, so step through that very quickly. And here we go. Tools. And if this toolbar pull-down menu is not on, remember, left-click on your quick menu drop-down list, and then find Show Menu Bar and click on that. Okay, so then you can click on Tools, click on Toolbars, AutoCAD, and then find Object Snap. Okay, and you get this little fancy toolbar that you can place. I like putting it just a little further over on my screen. Actually, I like it up here, kind of floating, but we'll dock it in here so it's permanent. Okay, so here we have all kinds of snaps. If you hover, it tells you what they are. Okay, and so we're going to draw a line that's tangent to these two arcs. So we go to line, and we look for the tangent. This is where a line is congruent with the arc perfectly, and its intersection point is at a 90-degree angle to the center point and line. So it automatically does that for us. We're going to turn off O-snaps momentarily. I'm going to press